Hello everyone, welcome to All About Paris. Today we're going to explore the 20th Arrondissement, which is in the north of the city, northeast to be more specific. Today is a Saturday, it's around 18 hours. It's not necessarily the end of the day since we're entering to the summertime, so it means the days are longer, but let's just start.
Tu peux prendre la télécommande, t'appuies pas sur le bouton.
We're in middle of the spring and it's very beautiful weather today. It's also a long weekend since Monday is gonna be the 1st of May, and since it's a long weekend there's a lot of visitors in the city. So when you have a very nice weather and a long weekend, that's the perfect formula for having a lot of people visiting. The 20th arrondissement is one of the largest arrondissements in the city, and it's a very interesting arrondissement because it has a lot of diversity, not only in ethnicities but also in income and landscape. So this is one of the parts of the city where we will find hilly terrain. You will find some hills, and it also means that it will have wonderful views of the city. So let's hope that today we can see those beautiful views. As you can see in this area, for some reason you have like very wide sidewalks in comparison to other arrondissements in the city, and it means that there's a lot of people having coffees and having a drink in those improvised cafes, I would say. It is also interesting that after the COVID times, the city hall decided to actually let businesses to put tables and seats outside. It was a measure that was put in place because, as you remember, it was important to keep distance between people. And it was such a nice idea that actually it's something that is apparently going to happen every year. One of the most beautiful parks in the city, in my opinion, is actually Belleville Park, which is a beautiful view park. And that's also the name of this neighborhood. And we started right at the station of Belleville. So I'm gonna turn left here because one of my main interests is to show you this nice park. It's kind of in a hill, so we will have to do probably some stairs. Let's see if I find a way that we can avoid all the steps. So in this area you find a lot of new buildings. The 20th is very particular in the sense that you find many new buildings and from the beginning of the 20th century, but there's also areas where you have the traditional Osmanian buildings. One of the things that I find fantastic about this arrondissement is that you usually have kind of a neighborhood vibe. Like in this area, for example, you see people and they're usually playing some sports, some kids, which is not very often that you find that when you are in other neighborhoods. It's been a long time since I came to this park. I think last time was years ago, to be honest. But it's really very nice. Let's see. Let's start here. So that was like a small court, and now I'm going to the main park, and this should be one of the main entrances. There we are. So usually I remember this, well, it's supposed to be kind of like a cascade, and in theory, well, it's still very beautiful even if you have all these water fountains that are not necessarily working. I think they turn it on like for a summertime, but I couldn't be totally sure about it. So let's go to the first flight of stairs. Don't think I hate the stairs, it's just that I'm wearing a scarf now, and since it's hotter than what I predicted, not necessarily fun of having stairs now, but it doesn't matter. Let's enjoy it.
Et là, on a été.
Okay, we did it. That was the first part. So this is the second or the third? Don't remember, but we're going up now. So here we are. You can see there's a lot of people now. Since it's sunny outside, people take the opportunity to go immediately out. And our main objective is to get there, so we can see the beautiful view of Beautiful View neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that actually have a very important history in Paris. The 20th arrondissement in general has a lot of history because for a long time it has been a working class neighborhood, and it had big movements, social movements that obviously have been fed by the working class. And for example, in this part, there are a lot of important events that happened during the Commune de Paris. So that's basically something that if you guys check out the city, should come and see, because there's a lot of historical facts in this part. And it's also beautiful, and it's also gentrifying. So because it's a nice location and beautiful, and tends to be a less expensive neighborhood, but I think that's totally changing. I think I haven't showed you before, but there's these fountains that I really like. And in Paris you have usually the same color, which is green, for all public facilities, including the benches or the kiosks or the Wallace fountains. You can see some Wallace fountains in my videos, but you actually find it anywhere. So I'm in the first part to see the beautiful view. And as you can see, there's some particularities here. We were just talking about a Wallace fountain. We have one to the right, but this one is not green, which kills totally the point that I said before. Most of them are green, but this one is blue. I think there's some of them that are yellow, and I think I've seen like a pink one. I'm not totally sure. But this is a nice part to see, take some sunlight, take a drink, and it's basically Rue Piat, and it's like it's Rue Piat en fait, and then it's a nice area. So there you go with the fountain. Okay. I'm glad there's sunlight, but it's a shame that the sun is right in front of the camera. So I'm not very sure that we'll have the takes that you need to appreciate how beautiful this part is. I have to say that it's kind of rundown. It's a modern rundown square. My humble opinion is that modern areas of Paris are usually run down, and when I say modern, are usually the ones that were built like probably 30 years ago during the 1670s. They all fall apart. And my theory is that in France, we're used to have old buildings that age quite well without a lot of intervention. However, if you're having like new buildings, they need to be taken care of all the time. Like in cities like in the US, they take care of the cities all the time, of the buildings all the time. But in Paris, it's not the case. So you usually have all these areas that are new but not very well taken care of. That's my theory. Let me know if there's a reason for this, but I just wanted to show you the view in a second. Maybe I will do it here because I don't know if you can see right there, but you have the skyline of the city. But in that part you cannot see what I wanted to show you, which is the Eiffel Tower. We're right in front of Montparnasse, La Tour Montparnasse, which is the largest, highest building in the center of Paris, and it's where you find one of the largest stations. So that's part of the view. I will try to move a little bit because I don't think we could see the Eiffel Tower from here, but let me try to move around. There's more interesting things on the Eiffel Tower though. Look how beautiful that is. Right behind, between the two buildings, the church, right? And this is how it looks from here. It's always very common that people just take some food and do a picnic, and they just sit to take some time off. And that's part of the view. So let's go back now. There's like this little market where they're selling kind of this artwork. Okay, so I guess that probably happens very often, since in squares you find markets very often in the city. Some of them are the whole year, and some of them are just like a couple times per year or per month. It depends. Okay, so let's go for our little walk here. I could spend more time in the park, actually. I won't do it right now because what I wanted to show you is to have an idea of the vibe of this neighborhood. And I also have to make sure that I go the right direction, because if I take the wrong turn, I will have to go up a hill. And that's what I think, like each arrondissement in Paris is like basically a different city. Some of the arrondissements used to be different cities, and when the city grew up, then it became part of the main core. So we'll go through here. As I said before, in this arrondissement, you have these amazing buildings, and you have those buildings existing at the same time with new projects, and projects that are from 30, 40 years ago. Something that is very interesting, I said about gentrification, but to be honest, this is one of the hardest arrondissements to be gentrified, because there's a high percentage of people that have stable rents and protected social houses. So it means that locally, for these people, they can stay in their apartments. There's some houses here too. In the 19th and the 20th, there's some houses that were built for working class, I think at the beginning of the 20th century, and they're beautiful houses. Of course, now there are millions of euros sometimes, but It's just to explain how's the interesting evolution of buildings and population in this area. We're getting close to Jourdain station, which is one of my favorite neighborhoods. It feels actually like if you are in a neighborhood, in a small neighborhood, in a small city. And what I love is how you change different streets, and then you have a total different vibe, total different atmosphere. You see there's all these little like cafes and restaurants that are actually kind of different to the big fancy cafes that you find in other arrondissements. And it is funny because I actually remember I came to this park to see an apartment once. And finding an apartment in Paris is something that I will have to discuss at some point. I didn't want to get to that, but I remember it was I was waiting there. I think it was that building to the right. And there was such a line because there were so many people. There were like 15 people waiting to see the apartment, and the owner gave us each one like 5 minutes to check it out. And it was a very small apartment, and it was one of these buildings or around. But I remember I waited in the stairs, if I'm not wrong. There's a vibe for this neighborhood that reminds me of Montmartre, because you have all the stairs and the buildings. It's it's very close geographically, so I guess there's some influence in that. And now we're entering to Pyrénées, which is a street that is very well known and nice because it has so many different little businesses, and there's a lot of economic dynamics going on. It's also fancy real estate now, and I think it was less fancy before. If you can see right at the bottom, it's a hill, as is usually the case. And what is very particular of this arrondissement is that actually you don't find many boulevards like you can find in other parts of the city. And one of those reasons, I think, is because the buildings in this area, they were created kind of randomly. And that's like a heritage you have in terms of how the streets are laid out. So I just want to show you a little bit, because I was talking, if you can see the prices more or less of the apartment. So this one is 164,000 and it's just like 16 square meters. So it's basically a studio. But then you have this one that is 644,000 euros, and this is 85 square meters. And this is basically, I don't know if you can see, but that's how it looks. I will try to put how much money that is in other in other currencies, but that's a lot of money for people in France, and actually for the space, it's a lot too. So. Look at how cute that is. Oh, isn't it amazing? Yes, delicious croissants that are recently made. The 20th arrondissement is also the place where you find Père Lachaise, which is the famous cemetery with very famous people, and this is I think the most visited cemetery in the world. So it's really a very good experience because it's so beautiful and calm, and then you just go and there's a list of really famous people that you just can go and see their tombs, and that's a very different experience, at least for me. This street is nice because it has so many trees. It feels very green. Another particular thing that you see is that there are not a lot of tourists. Most of people are locals, and there's less people in the streets. So it's quieter. It's cheaper to buy things, to go to a restaurant, to go to the market. So it has a charm. It's certainly beautiful when you see spring is here and you see that the leaves are coming. It changes totally the feeling, and people are usually happier. That's a lot to say. Isn't it calm? Isn't it interesting? It's a feeling of a neighborhood, and you don't find it in every arrondissement. To be honest, there's some arrondissements that feel like if nobody's living there. Here you find like very small owner stores and businesses. So that's nice. I think it's probably a temperature of about 16 degrees Celsius right now, 16 or 17, and it feels quite warm. Something very interesting about the 20th is that, as I said, it's in the north of the city, and because in this part of the world, actually the wind comes from the southwest and goes to the northeast. Before, actually the poorer neighborhoods of the city were in this part because there were a lot of industries, and in those industries there were a lot of smoke. Then the smoke blew away to the northeast, and then that's the place where rich people didn't want to live. That's where you have the historically rich arrondissements of the city in the south west, like the 16th arrondissement, for example. And that totally changed how the city is economically distributed. And at the same time, it's something that is actually not in place anymore because there's no industry in the city. It's basically a service-based economy. So all those industries have moved out of the city. But still, historically, these neighborhoods tend to be more of poorer neighborhoods. But that's something that is totally changing, since it's, as I said, a service-oriented economy. I'm just watching all the food. Some cheese, right? There's a lot of cheese. They say that you can have a different cheese every day in France, and then you would run out of days. And yes, we don't put the eggs in the fridge. So now we're approaching to our last station, which is Gambetta station. Here you can find in the metro, but also it's a very beautiful fountain that I like. It's very simple, nothing amazing in terms of design. It's not it's not classical at all, but it's a beautiful part to see it, and it's beautiful architecture. So as you can see, it's more classic Paris, Haussmann, and that's really very nice. You have those cafes, and also you have the city hall for the 20th arrondissement. You can also find the station over here for the metro, which is the line 3 and line 3 bis. Public buildings in France are extremely beautiful most of the time, particularly in Paris. The city hall is usually a very impressive building. Okay, I crossed here, shouldn't have crossed, but Well, this is the end of my video. Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful walk with me, especially because it's a very beautiful day. So stay tuned because as I did this time, the Rive Droite, which is a right bank. Next time I hope to do a left bank arrondissement. So remember, this is one of the most interesting arrondissements in the city. It's incredibly beautiful. So until next time, and have a great long weekend if you're in France or wherever you are.